being away, not being away, I think he means to say there.
Yeah.
Even Ferrimo played well. But we've been improving for weeks, so this performance has been coming. Leeds got a couple of consolation tries, but Try Machine Eden put them out of their misery with his usual brace. Leeds are dog shit. Really dog shit. Alf Ramsey couldn't save them. Hashtag Coif, hashtag Radford in.
Carsten, Gary says Gary needs not only a new head coach, he needs to find players because they were missing on the pitch for the first 40. Cass weren't outstandingly good, but Leeds were terrible.
Pop the Vikings said, cast the better side in a game where Leeds lacked ideas. It's going to be a long season for Leeds on this form.
And Tom Andrew says, so Agar wasn't the problem. I see a lot of Leeds-based hate targeted at Austin, but I personally think Caesar's body language stinks. Doesn't look bothered, throw shitty passes, putting people in impossible situations. At least Big Gaz is off to Oz instead of East Hull looking for quality coaches.
Yeah, and Scoot said,
Tom.
Yeah, Scoot said, once again, Radford gets his team up for a one-off match, but there wasn't much fight in the Rhinos. But on Tom's point, yeah, the news filtering out this week has been that Leeds Rhinos chief exec Gary Hetherington says he will travel to Australia to continue the search for the club's new head coach. In an open letter to fans, Hetherington has shared his plans in search of a replacement for Rich Agar. He does confirm that he will meet with potential candidates overseas, whilst also continuing the search on home soil. Basically, he's off to Australia to get out of the fire for a bit, isn't he?
He is, isn't he?
And then he's going to come back and appoint someone from this country anyway.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. It's just, it just seems like he did this before, didn't he? As well, when he sacked people, he just disappears off to Australia for a month or two. It seems like a strange way to reinforce a leadership culture at your club by being away from your club. I don't know, but he obviously thinks that this is the best way to go about it, which I think strange. What do you have any? Before we talk about how shit Leeds were and how good Cass were, do you have any thoughts on the next coach for Leeds?
Well, I mean, I think the problem Leeds have got is the people that are appointing the coaches at Leeds now, i.e. Gary Hetherington, is the same person that's appointed the last two coaches, neither of whom were good enough. So,
you've got to credit, he did appoint some really good some coaches who had really good records previous to that. But you're right, if the thing that's changed isn't being changed.
I mean, I'm still not absolutely convinced that McDermott was a brilliant coach. I think what McDermott had was a brilliant team. He had a group of players who came to the maturity at the same time who were all absolute legends of the game. And Leeds haven't got that now.
No, that's what Christian Wolf's got, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got a lot of very, very good players. He's got a lot of very good players playing at the club, but Wolf's done a very good job of getting the best out of those players. I'm not at all convinced that I don't know whether Hetherington knows what a good coach looks like. We'll find out.
I don't know that he knows how to fix a problem, I think is the challenge, isn't it? So because obviously they had that great success and that golden generation and all of that, and it, Smith, the Kiwi guy whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, and then McDermott all provided great performances from that side for a decade, well, 11 or 12 years really. So it's then when that's come to an end, he doesn't seem to have a solution to whatever problem everyone keeps talking about being so deep-rooted at that club.
Yeah.
And it can't just be a problem about this group of players, because this is quite a new group of players compared to the group of players that saw David Furner sacked as coach 3 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, if you write that team down on paper and take the individual players, that's not a bad squad at all.
Well, where did people have them tipped before the season? I think the average on our predictions might have been fourth. We had, I think some of the magazines, some of the trade press were having them as high as third. third place finishes in the league. Fourth or fifth was where they kind of landed with our listener base, which I didn't think sounded unreasonable either. Fifth,
No.
top five side. They've been a top five side the last 2 years as well.
Like some good signings. I mean, I've never, and I said this in the pre-season program, never been convinced by Agar as a coach. But I thought they'd made some good signings and they would make some good progress this year, but they haven't. They absolutely.
No. Whereas Castleford definitely built on what we saw in the win against Hull FC a few weeks ago, that they totally fell away from the week after, but then picked up again to an extent against Wigan, and in this game against a more hapless opponent, Westerman playing as well as he played against Wigan, but with, I think, the team around him a bit more functional. Certainly Evalds coming back in, which I think was a bit of a surprise. Him being fit again really helped. It put McShane back at hooker, and in this game McShane didn't play how he'd played the first few games under Radford at hooker, with the long passes to isolated halfbacks. There was a lot more people joined up together, and a big part of that was Joe Westerman.
Yeah. I think I definitely credit Cass. There's no doubt. I mean, the way they played in that first half, they really put Leeds to the sword, right from, not just in the pack. The pack did really well, but across the backs, I think they were clinical, and won the game in the first half. It'll be interesting to see how Cass go for the next couple of games, whether they can get that level of consistency now into their performance. I'm still not convinced, but let's see. What is for sure is Leeds need to turn this around faster. Their season could really disintegrate. Let's hope they don't do that this week.
Yeah, well, if Castleford carry momentum from this performance and aspects of the Wigan performance into a game against Toulouse at home, you would think that would be a real platform for them to build off and start looking up rather than down, which it feels like Leeds can only at the moment be looking down, but there's not that much further to fall. I think one area of concern for Castleford is their defence in and around Gareth O'Brien in the halfback positions, whether it's been O'Brien or Richardson in that right-sided halfback position. Teams have exposed them defensively.
Yeah.
The tries that Leeds did score and a couple of other opportunities they had around that time came in that area. Although maybe even Leeds could have taken some advantage down the other side if Caesar had thrown the sensible short ball that was working for them, rather than the cut-out ball right to Eden, who did, as people have said, Greg Eden things, and strolled in with that interception try. But it's not like it's not on tape, is it? That Eden's going to be in the line and looking for interceptions. No. He dropped a couple last week. He dropped a couple in the first half this week, and then yet they still gave him those opportunities. He's going to take him. He's class at that.
He's gonna get one of them, that's for sure. So interesting. Leeds have got some urgent work to do if they're to rescue their season, that's for sure. I'm looking forward to going watching them firsthand this week.
Let's move on to the next game then. This was Warrington versus Wakefield. Yeah, possibly the best game. I listened to it on the radio because our shared Premier Sports account, someone else had gone on, which if it was Alan, it's fair enough because he pays for it. And if it's anyone else, it's fair enough. They did it quicker than me. But I listened to it on the radio, but they caught up on the tries, kind of as the game was happening when they were releasing the highlights, but also after the game. And yes, there were some great scores, weren't there?
Absolutely. The first two tries Warrington scored were... First one was my try of the round, I think. The Curry offload to Widdop and then kick to put Wrench in, I thought was gorgeous.
Whereas I thought the Wakefield try that won it was the try of the round with Max Jowett's brilliant play. But we'll get to all that after we've done the scores and reviews. So it was 12-6 to Warrington at half-time after they'd taken that 12-0 lead very early on. but Wakefield managed to turn it around and win 18-12 after a strong second half performance. 2,627 was the ridiculously low attendance.
Yeah.
Jack Smith was the referee. Of all the criticisms about crowd figures, this
is the worst.
Sits the highest in the criticism stakes for me. But let's not take away from what the players delivered, because they delivered something that was deserving of a crowd 5 times or more the size. What was the first fan view have to say on this one?
Yeah, Wakey White got in touch and said, very similar to last week, with Warrington starting strongly, only to gradually lose the arm wrestle in the second half. For such a low-scoring game, both sides' defence was pretty poor, but Wakey were different gravy with the ball. Lino again was incredible. Wyatt just didn't know how to handle him, and he punished them time after time with a mind-boggling array of kicks, runs and passes. Tottenham, here we come.
Lee Whitnell simply said, new week, same shite.
Page, always good to see the Powell scowl and Warrington fans in meltdown. Agar in.
Tom Andrews said, HMS always our year has sprung the same leak as Cass last year. Only Widdop can hold his head up. Funny though. We did have some late ones on this one as well. We had at Mike Dodd 22. He said, Wire, good to hear from Mike. He said, Wire just don't seem to be doing anything at the moment. They seem terrified of making mistakes like they were in the opening few weeks, so they're now going with the approach of, if we don't do anything, we can't do anything wrong. That also, never seen a Wire team so scared of committing to tackle anyone as they have done with Lino over the last 2 weeks. At least the traffic and parking was great with nobody being there. EFC78JU said, piss poor near the end as Wire let Wakey get easy tries and we lost our 6-point lead to handling errors and knocking the ball on so much. But the positives in the game were the 2 tries in 2 minutes. Hopefully they are not playing like this to get Powell sacked. Honest to God, get your act together, lads. KR away next. And Scoot said, I feared the worst when Wire went 12-0 up, but Wakey were not to be beaten. Some shoddy defence combined with moments of Mason magic saw them through to the next round.
Yeah. Really good game. Really good set of try highlights. Should we cover the other news stories, Mark, or do you want to have a chat about the game first?
Let's chat a bit about the game. One thing I think that's fantastic with the way that the game ended is that the controversy at half-time became irrelevant. I'm not sure if you caught this at the time as it was happening.
Yes, this was it was in the highlights pack. The tackle off the ball and the as he was chasing through, and the refs' certainty that there wasn't a problem, even though on the replays it looked like it looked at least like there might be an argument that there was a tackle off the ball.
Yeah, Kalepi Tanganoa had kind of picked up this head of steam and was motoring through. And Josh Thewlis, who was playing at fullback in place of Ratchford in this game, he definitely, there was definitely a tug on Tanganoa's arm, weren't there? And then there was a collision of about 3 or 4 bodies all together. That maybe is what distorted the ref's view of what had happened, and he thought it was just a coming together rather than, because he obviously missed the pullback by Thewlis that happened moments before that. I'm not sure, I can't remember exactly where Jack Smith's angle was or where the touch judge's angle was.
I think Jack Smith was looking at it head on, so it's difficult to see how he could have missed it. What I thought was that maybe he thought it was 6 of one and half a dozen of another, because Tanganoa had pushed his arm in front of Thewlis in the first place.
Yeah, that's a fair shout, yeah.
So he may have thought, look, these two guys are both wrestling each other for the ball here. I'm just not going to call it. So
yeah. There's certainly an argument to say it could have been checked as a potential penalty try. I think more likely would have been a yellow card if it had gone up to the video ref. A yellow card for a professional foul on Thewlis and a penalty because of the clear pull back.
Yeah.
But because I can't think you can say for certainty, given that there was about 3 or 4, like I say, players that collided in the end before anyone got anywhere near the ball. But yeah, there was also, like I say, an argument to say there was an infringement coming through to get ahead of Pulis in the first inning. So anyway, the good thing is it didn't matter in the end because the best team won by